close. It's a close race. Why is it so close? There's a lot of talk that you should be the clear frontrunner here, given what the state did in the 2016 election.
Well, gubernatorial races in Virginia are always close, and we anticipate that being the case this year. But I will tell you that there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm and excitement across the Commonwealth of Virginia right now, and people are focused on what's going on in Washington. They want a governor that will stand up to the detrimental policies coming out of Washington, like the travel ban, like what's going on with health care.
So, let me talk about those, what you call detrimental policies. I want to play a piece of one of your recent ads here, and then I want to talk to you about it.
If Donald Trump is helping Virginia, I'll work with him. But Donald Trump proposed cutting Virginia's school funding, rolling back our clean air and water protections, and taking away health care from thousands of Virginians. As a candidate for governor, I sponsored this ad because I've stood up to Donald Trump on all of it.
So, you've said you've stood up to Donald Trump. You also say you'll work with him. In the primary, had an ad that called the president a narcissistic maniac. So which is it? Is Donald Trump a narcissistic maniac, or is he somebody you're going to work with? Well,
I certainly stand by what I said, and there are issues in Virginia.
Which part, though? You said sort of both things.
Well, things like the detrimental policies that are coming out, like the travel ban, that's doing nothing more than provoking fear-mongering in Virginia. That's not what Virginia's about. We can't have that. Health care that's going to take up to 30 million people off their policies. So there are things that I'll be glad to defend Virginia and stand up for. But, if Donald Trump wants to build up our military, we build the best warships and submarines right there in Newport News. If he wants to guarantee us that we won't have another sequestration, those are good things for Virginia. So I'll work with him when I can.
So you stand by sort of both things you said, because I think to some it sounds like on the one hand you want to be the resistance candidate, on the other, behind the scenes, you're going to go shake his hand and work with him. Is that accurate?
When I can work with him, and I think that's been the case in governors in the past.
Can you have that cake and eat it too?
Oh, absolutely. I think previous governors had, and again, if there are things that we can work on, I will. But when there are detrimental policies, again, health care, we want to make sure that all Virginians have access to affordable and quality care, and no individual, no family should be one medical illness away from financial demise. We can't let what's happening in Washington affect us here in Virginia.
Your opponent, Ed Gillespie, seems to have been trying to capitalize on the movement, on the wave that pushed and propelled Donald Trump into the presidency here. When you look at some of the ads he's been putting out, when you look at some of the conversations he's been having, are you also trying to ride at least some of that wave with this conversation into the White House?
I think there's certainly a contrast between the two campaigns, and he is continuing to provoke the fear-mongering, the hatred and bigotry. This ad that he's running with MS-13 saying that I'm fighting for gangs in Virginia. I mean, I'm a pediatrician. I'm a veteran of the United States Army, so it's inaccurate,
but a poll release
it's despicable.
This week shows 40% of Virginia voters do believe Gillespie would actually be better on crime. Do you think that ad is making a difference?
Well, they need to look at my record and my resume, and I've been fighting for safe streets for 10 years while my opponent has been a Washington lobbyist, and he shows up when he gets paid. That's all he does. I'm a public servant. That's my resume. That's my record.
You also own stock in a number of big companies, according to the Washington Post, that are active in Virginia here. AT&T, Bank of America, Norfolk Southern, Kraft Heinz, as well as Dominion Energy, which is, of course, Virginia's largest utility company. If you're elected, what are you going to do with that stock?
Well, certainly they'll be put in a blind trust, but I think people need to look at my resume. I've been a public servant all my life, and that's what people need to focus on.
Will you say affirmatively now that you will not make any decisions if you are elected governor based on your own personal interests?
Oh, absolutely. Again, I never have. I've always put the public interest in how I make my decisions. Again, I've served in the military. I've taken care of sick children. I served in the Senate. Lieutenant Governor, and I've always put the public interest at the top, and as I said earlier, anything that's in my investment portfolio will go into a blind trust, so I won't have anything to do with it.
Before I let you go, I want to talk about President Obama coming to campaign for you. You talk about the energy and enthusiasm that you see in Virginia. That clearly hasn't translated totally to the polls, as we've already talked about, this being a close race. What do you need to hear? What do you want voters to hear from President Obama tonight?
Well, as you know, we've got less than 20 days left until the election, and our job between now and November the 7th is really to energize our voters, to make sure that they're enthusiastic and that they get to the polls on November the 7th. And Barack Obama coming into Virginia tonight is just very exciting, and he's going to energize our voters and just kind of close that loop for us.
And I want to give you one opportunity to address a controversy that has popped up recently, which is Mr. Fairfax being left off some flyers in flyers that are run by your campaign. Black Democrat, a lot of people have taken some exception to that.
Well, we have a great ticket in Justin Fairfax. Fairfax, Mark Herring, and myself, and we're running a coordinated campaign.
So why wasn't Justin Fairfax on that flyer?
That was with an endorsement from one of the unions, and that's between the union and him. But I would just tell you that we're unified. We're focused on November the 7th. We're excited about Barack Obama coming tonight, and we're going to win, the three of us, on November the 7th.
I appreciate